experience. And I can't emphasize that enough, that you both mentioned that accountability. You know, in Christianity, we talk about accountability partners. Right. And in sobriety, we talk about our sponsor and that phone number, that phone call, you know, to my sponsor, that text message from my sponsor every morning, that meeting time and those steps we're working through together. It's just it's even hard to describe the experience that you get from actually working the steps, to be willing to put everything aside and say, okay, I'm plugging in and this is where I'm going. You also both mentioned something that I want to touch on, that having you both here together today has its meaning. Yes. And I have my alternative motives. So I know your sponsor. I know yours. Anyway, so I know you both, and I've come to love you both, but in a different way. You've come to love each other. Yes. And so I'll emphasize, I'll clarify that if I can. You've begun to establish a relationship. Mark, help me out here on trying to describe what's going on.
With me and Allie, we have a very spontaneous meeting. She talked about reaching out to a friend in church at Story to get to her first meeting. Well, that friend reached out to me and was like, hey, where should I take her? At this time, I didn't even know Allie. It was just a friend. A friend of a friend is what it was. And actually at that time, it's pretty crazy, because at that time I was in a really, really rough spot in my sobriety. I was a little over a year and in a really not so good relationship. You know, me being a Christian, being part of the Story. Before I was at Story, I was still part of a church, but I wasn't playing it right. I was God on Sunday morning, or of God on Sunday morning, but Monday through Saturday, I wasn't that Christian. And God convicted me over it, you know. I brought that to the attention of the ex-girlfriend, and things went south, but reaching out and meeting Allie, I remember telling Allie the first time that I met her that I was going to pray for her. You know, and it's funny because it's not God, please put us together. No, it was God, use me as a light to those around me, and especially now with knowing Allie, lift her up and give her peace. And that's what my prayer was for a while. And then we have a mutual friend in recovery that was having a sobriety party. And I needed a ride because it's across town, and mind you, I don't have a car. I don't have a license. So I was just like, hey, I'm going to try to find a ride. I'll try to be there. And then lo and behold, somebody's like, hey, I can give you a ride.
Yeah, and I honestly had no ulterior motives, and I honestly wasn't looking for anything. I mean, a good friend of mine, a new friend of mine, she's, you know, an amazing woman of God too. She was like, the best advice I could ever give you, because I kind of told her about my past relationships and stuff. Which is the best advice I can give you is start praying for your future husband now. Like, well, before you even know him, before that, you know. So I had started, and I'd done it every day since I talked to her. Not expecting that it's going to be within the next couple months or whatever. And, you know, I met Mark not thinking much of it. I thought he was a really nice guy. Everybody I met in recovery, that recovery meeting, was obviously amazing and welcoming. And, you know, when he told me he'd pray for me that first time, I remember him saying that, and I remember thinking, like, you know, it's my first meeting, I'm all bitter and stubborn, and, like, you know, do I need to do this? And, you know, I was just like, yeah, sure, you know?
I'm not one of those people, am I?
Yeah, I was just like, sure. I'm sure he's going, yeah, you know? But, you know, I got to know Mark better at the sobriety birthday party for one of our friends, and again, not thinking, had no ulterior motives. Just started getting to know each other, and we were what my sister calls it, courting now. But we were good friends. Like, we were going to coffee, going and, you know, just going to do, like, random things, like go to Hart Park and go walk around, and literally still just friends, like, you know, and, but, you know, eventually we got to know each other really well. We spent a lot of time just talking and getting to hear each other's stories and venting, and, you know, before we knew it, like, I was like, he's really special to me, but, like, kind of fighting it still, like, I shouldn't, you know, this is, I shouldn't be in a relationship right now. I'm still trying to figure myself out, but, you know, really, though, it was God being like, oh, so you want a good man, a good husband, and lo and behold, Mark.
It's because he has a beard.
Yeah, probably it.
This should be on YouTube so everyone can see your good-looking beard. So, how is recovery tied into? How does that play into your relationship?
Recovery is huge. We've talked about this multiple times.
Even the day we got decided we were where it was going. The day we confirmed we both had these kinds of feelings.
It's mandatory that we still go to our meetings.
It's God, our recovery, sobriety, and then us, and it has to be that way. We've realized because we wouldn't have each other for both of those. We wouldn't know if he met drunk Alli or I met drunk Mark. That would never work. Right. And it's only by the grace of God that we even got sober. So those two things have to be at the top of our relationship before even us can be a thing. So if he needs to, if he wants to go to a meeting, then I'm going to support him on that. And, if he wants to go to a men's meeting, he can go. If I'm going to go, he's going to we try to be very supportive of each other's sobriety needs, especially, and just recovery needs, and respecting each other's sobriety and wellness and all that.
It is. It's your wellness, right? So you would support your significant other if they suddenly joined a gym.
Right.
So why wouldn't you support each other in, hey, I'm going to this meeting, or I'm plugging in, or this, I got a phone call and I got to go help somebody real quick. Right. That's just exactly what it looks like. Right. And it just has to be the norm. I like that, though. You said it's God, recovery, and then each other.
And then each other, yeah. And then it's important for us, I feel like, too, to establish boundaries, because it's easy to because we obviously talk a lot, but to have those boundaries with our recovery, and I still go to my sponsor, he'll still go to his sponsor for certain things that we need guidance on in our recovery, and that's completely respectable. There's things I can talk to him about, but then there's things I need to talk to my female sponsor about strictly. To have those boundaries and that respect for each other, I feel like has been really vital when it comes to, the days that maybe we aren't doing so well, or we're having some challenges, and, stress is hitting us, or reality of life is hitting us, and, maybe something from our past has come to rise, and we're having to face it, knowing that, hey, I'm not going to be offended if you call your sponsor first, or because you need that, because they're, that's the importance of this program. We work, that's how we are going to stay sober, and we need those other people to kind of be our support. It can't just be me and him. It's got to be God, and it's got to be our recovery family and us in it, So
it is a big family, and it's weird how we're all connected.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned step work, calling your sponsor. Your sponsor is not your relationship counselor.
Right, exactly.
But your partner in your relationship is not your step work either.
Right. So it's having that it's having that balance and those boundaries with both, and knowing when I need to go to Mark about something in our relationship, but knowing when I'm feeling the social anxiety that I would get before I would go have a drink and go somewhere. That's something I'm going to call my sponsor for, having that to know when I need to do, who I need to go to,
We're working through the big book, but together we're working through another book.
Yes.
Together you're working through the Bible at home,
Exactly.
and then your big book work is going to be guided by your sponsor. They're going to share their experience with you. And that's going to be awesome. So yeah, and it's God, recovery, and each other. And that's not a priority list by any means. I want to clarify that real quick for those listening. It's a circle. It's one circle. And without one of those in the circle, you no longer have a circle. You just have a straight line. And lines, we all know, have a beginning and an end. With God, recovery, and each other, there is no end to the circle. It continues. And that's where we're at now. Speaking of not ending, what are you doing? You guys are just so inspirational to me and my wife in life, because you guys are actually involved in many facets of ministry and recovery, both together, at the same time. I mean, I don't even know. I know I can't share an office with my wife. I'll just tell you right now, Leona's got one way of working, and I have a total another way. I have to have music playing in the background and distractions, headphones on, and she wants it.
difference.
Total quiet. She wants it totally quiet, yet she's got books and paperwork everywhere, and I'm just like, oh, it's such a mess. It's chaos. Yet I have to have the noise, and I mean, I could literally have an office in the middle of a 4-lane intersection and it'd be just fine. And
Still be
so,
just
yeah.
right.
But you guys are doing some amazing things. I'm an observer at, let's just touch on one of them. You're in a worship band at your church together. You both are on stage. I saw you this morning. Not just this morning. I see you every Sunday, but,
Yes.
tell me a little bit about that. Working together, rehearsals, and.
So with me and Allie in our ministry at Story, Allie has been going to Story a lot longer than me. She was already part of the Dream Team, which is, there's multiple teams across that, and worship team is one of them. She was already on that, and I remember when we officially started dating, I started going to Story, and I was like, you know what? I think I need to get into ministry here. Plus, our worship leader is a brother in sobriety. Asked me if I would join.
You mean Nick?
Yes, Nick.
Somebody might know him,
Love
so
it.
there you go.
Love it, man.
I'll plug him.
Love you, Nick.
Yes.
But I did. So I went through their next step classes to become part of ministry. And on that last week, I met with our pastor, and he'd been praying about it because he prays about everybody that goes through these classes. And he has a personal connection with God, and he was asking God where he wants to use me at. And mind you, we're engaged now, but at the time of me going through these classes, there was no engagement. There was just dating. And uses us as a couple through Story, but then also with the Recovery Chapel. On Saturday nights, we actually lead worship. You know, not just part of the team, we are the team. And we do that as a couple. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of couples out there that are huge that I look up to, and I see inspiration, and I see me and Allie just this last Saturday. I can feel that. And it's all God. It's God working on our lives in ways that 2.5 years ago I would have never thought would even been possible.
Right. And what's been cool, too, is I feel like when we're apart, you know, whether it be at our jobs or just times where we are doing our, you know, day-to-day things that, you know, we are separate from each other physically, I feel like it's important that I feel like we've been intentionally praying on doing that even when we're by ourselves, being very kingdom-minded, always looking to Christ for everything that we do. And then so when we come together, I feel that it makes both of us even stronger in that sense. So because we pray every day is how we start our days. Like we meet up together, whether, you know, it's before he goes to work, or even if I'm just calling him on the way to work in the morning, if he's off or something, I'll call him, and we do each say a prayer. And, you know, usually it involves that throughout our day, we are just allowing God to use us as vessels, allowing us to hear, you know, dropping our pride and our ego and our stresses and all that, and surrendering it up to him so that we can hear him, so that we can learn the things that he needs us to learn in order to help live out our calling, but also help others carry out their calling and purpose in life. And I think that's been huge for us personally, and then as a couple together, because I feel like when we, you know, at the end of the day, we come together and it's like, you know, we do stuff like go to our Story Church worship practice or come here to the chapel to lead worship. And it's like, it feels all whole then, you know, like it all comes together. Like
it's that round circle.
Yeah. So it's a fun journey, and it's something that we love to do. So I think we do work very differently too. So I can relate to you on that. I'm a little messier than he is, but you know, I think in our marriage, I think might be something we'll have to work through. So we might have our own little areas of working, but you know, that's what's cool is that we still nurture our time that we're working privately on something, but also when we come together, it's, you know.
When you come together, I think that's just huge for those listening. The inspiration of your story now is that you have come together, and you mentioned a compromise. That's just huge. So no, I get it. But again, I want to encourage you both right now. I just want to lift you guys up because you do work extremely well together. What you're doing when you're doing it for the kingdom, when you're doing it for recovery, is just huge, and people see that. They see that you work well together. You're one. And I just want to encourage you and hope that you continue in that path. You plugged a couple of things. We'll just plug Story Church real quick. When is that? What is that?